The second season of YELLOWJACKETS isn't holding back thus far. In the second episode of the season, Taissa keeps sleepwalking through the countryside, while Natalie fakes Javi's death to get Travis to move on. Shauna also continues to converse with Jackie's corpse. When the kids ultimately decide to cremate Jackie's remains, an unexpected snowdrift turns the ceremony into a macabre BBQ where everyone indulges in food, with the exception of Coach Ben. Although Coach Ben's sexuality was alluded at in Season 1, the episode Digestif from Season 2 fully explores it. He's gay, living in the closet, and worried about what may happen if his orientation were discovered. He resists the proposal from his secret boyfriend, Paul, to move in with him and advance their relationship, which would force him to come out and maybe lose his coaching position, and Paul soon breaks up with him. Ben resolves to really give their relationship a shot by making a last-minute diversion away from the airport on the day of the tragic flight in his daydream, which is presented as a factual memory up until the very end. The Chiron on the TV is showing the news about the missing flight while they are embracing. Natalie disposes of Jackie's remains close to the plane while Ben mulls his next course of action in an effort to make her death appear to be a part of the debris in case they are rescued. A white elk approaches her after she spots it close to the plane but misses with her shot. The elk suddenly vanishes as swiftly as it had appeared as she prepares to take cover. The elk either looks to be Natalie's dream, perhaps a hallucination brought on by the group's continued hunger, or a representation of the mystical forces of the forest trying to make contact. After Shauna admits to feeling scared and out of control after the Jackie feast, the team decides to throw her a baby shower to cheer her up. She still feels bad for eating her best friend and Taissa, who appears to have dissociated during the binge and is ashamed to admit that they devoured their teammate the night before, feels the same way. Lottie came up with the idea for the baby shower. The group is puzzled when Lottie gives Shauna a blanket with the enigmatic symbol drawn on it. Following Shauna's nosebleed, which causes blood to spill across the symbol, a flock of dead birds quickly descends upon the cabin. Whether it is given deliberately or involuntarily, blood is a constant symbol of sacrifice that calls the powers of the wilderness. In indigenous societies, the deceased birds that Lottie asks for blessings from generally portend horrible omens, like the passing of a family member. In this case, that could be Jackie or, worst yet, Shauna's child. In the wilderness timeline, Taissa's memory problems are still a recurring theme. She lets Van tag along with her while she sleepwalks and guides Van to trees marked with the symbol, while mumbling about being chosen by the one with no eyes, a reference to the eerie character we occasionally saw in Tay's Season 1 storylines. She doesn't, however, remember or know who that figure is when she wakes up. Her current situation isn't any better because Ty is rapidly deteriorating as a result of the automobile accident. She discovers the symbol for a hanged person written on Simone's palm and later dissociates in the shower, as her reflection becomes its own consciousness and encircles one eye while covering parts of her face with her hands. We're still no closer to figuring out what is haunting her, but the return of the guy without eyes is concerning and could portend violence or death. Ty, a fiercely independent lady who also happens to be a lousy employer, demands her assistant's car keys and leaves the hospital despite being unable to drive. When it comes to violence, adult Shauna is losing her mind. She and Jeff behave in quite different ways, which suggests that their little encounter with the police last week has affected both of them. In an attempt to be manly, Jeff confronts Kevin at the gym and then, after becoming enraged over strawberry lube, bizarrely suggests a last-minute road trip to Colonial Williamsburg. When they nearly struck a carjacking novice who was walking in an alleyway during their rendezvous, things go wrong. Shauna takes matters into her own hands by pushing Jeff and taking control of the gun while being held at gunpoint, rendering Jeff ineffective. Shauna's strategy fails because Jeff botches it, allowing the man to steal their minivan, indicating that he is either feeling diminished by his wife's abilities or that he is genuinely plain confused by what is occurring. Shauna takes the gun in her pocket before taking an Uber to a random junkyard to threaten the thieves. She's not just prepared to go to such measures to reclaim her family's piece of shit minivan, but she also enjoys the power and control to such an extent. She explains to the terrified carjacker, "I was nervous, but my hand wasn't shaking. I wanted to do this so badly that it was shaking." Melanie, Linsky, Emmy, and Real are all one word. Shauna's fixation with control and willingness to use violence, or at least the prospect of it, to achieve her goals are the driving forces behind her reliance on violence in both of her timelines. She won't stop at nothing to keep it, to experience the rush of once again being at the top of the food chain, and she doesn't seem to care what happens. Lottie and Natalie are still at odds with one another in their adult lives, just as they were as teenagers. Natalie is asked to reflect on herself and share anything she wants to process with the group, as a member of the intentional community, as Lottie refers to it. She is compelled to participate in an exercise with Lisa, Nicole Maines, Natalie's devotee, when she obviously declines. Natalie is disarmed when Lottie gives Lisa a fork and orders her to hurt Natalie back, making it very evident that Lottie controls Natalie's destiny. Instead, Lisa decides to embrace Natalie and express her regret. More of the community's grounds are shown to us, including Lottie's residences, which are identified by the same deer head that we first saw in the opening titles, and the ceremonies that earned her the moniker Antler Queen in Season 1. Lottie, who also keeps bees, uses the analogy of how she has her followers under her thumb to describe how bees cluster around their queen to keep them safe. But at the end of the episode, Lottie feels threatened by Natalie's presence and believes that someone has killed out the entire beehive population. Given that she has been presented as the Yellow Jacket with all of the answers, her break with reality comes as a surprise. However, this raises the question of how much of Lottie's ideas we ought to accept. After all, her abilities weren't revealed until she ran out of psychiatric medication in Season 1. Misty finally meets the Elijah Wood portrayed Walter, the Reddit detective, in one of the episode's poorer asides. To find out more about Natalie's abduction, they organize an interrogation of Randy on his yacht while pretending to be the FBI. Randy is one of Walter's leads regarding Natalie's disappearance and Jeff's best buddy, who Misty has known since elementary school. The only important information obtained by Misty while she was hiding in the lavatory while asking Walter questions was that Natalie was kidnapped by individuals sporting purple clothing. We all know that's Lottie's cult's outfit, but Misty and Walter initially ignore it as an absurd detail. They nevertheless choose to check the group's credit card history and discover that it is associated with a location in upstate New York. I anticipate Misty and Walter will converge on Lottie the following week, and who knows, perhaps Misty was aware of her cult the entire time.